Welcome to the Sports Spectrum Podcast, where faith and sports collide. Here's your host, Jason Romano.
Welcome to the Sports Spectrum Podcast, special edition live from Minneapolis here at Super Bowl 52. I'm Jason Romano. Thank you for joining us here on the program today. We want to bring you a few different interviews that we did. We walked around this area called Radio Row and the Media Center here at Super Bowl 52 in Minneapolis, and we sat down with a few different NFL players and talked about their faith, talked about their walk with Jesus, talked about the Super Bowl, a little on the field with the NFL. We want to bring these interviews to you in their entirety. So we're going to start off with Buffalo Bills linebacker Lorenzo Alexander, 13 years in the NFL, and we talked to him over at the Media Center about his faith and a really great story about his time with the Oakland Raiders. Take a listen. Lorenzo and I have known each other a few years, done some work at the Broadcast Boot Camp, and this year you're actually doing work with the Broadcast Boot Camp in a way at this Broadcast Bowl.
Right,
Tell us about it.
Yeah, it's been great. Carla Lyde, one of the player engagement officers over at the NFL, reached out to me about midway through the season and said they'll have a few guys down for Super Bowl to do media row and have some opportunities to either host or be interviewed and to get some great feedback from some professionals. And, like with anything that you ever do, the feedback and the constructive criticism is key. And this is something I want to do when I'm done, and I want to be good at it. Yeah. So I thought it'd be a great opportunity to come down here and partake. So it's been good so far. Just want to continue to get some more opportunities and continue to work and continue to improve.
What's the hardest thing you think about sort of doing this, being in broadcasting? What's the hardest thing?
The hardest thing for me in particular is the interview process, especially if I don't know a guy. I mean, if you know somebody and have a rapport with them, it's easy to kind of go back and forth, right, with a natural conversation.
Right.
But sometimes if you whether it's maybe a Hall of Famer you don't know or somebody just from around the league or a celebrity, like especially in this time because they just pulling guys in at you.
Everywhere, yeah.
You don't know what to ask, or you may have a set of questions that you wanted to ask them and then they go off on their own tangent and you have to follow along and now come up with some new questions that's part of the conversation. So that's always been my struggle, and just want to continue to be able to prove in that.
As you just finished year 13, still going strong, and I would say your best two seasons statistically have been the last two. Yeah,
they have. And it all comes down to opportunity.
Yeah.
I think my role has changed in the NFL, and I've gotten an opportunity to play, and now my coaches are using me more just as a special teams ace. I'm getting to play some significant defensive snaps, and I'm trying to make the most of them. Have some great coaches and teammates around me that allow me to play at a high level still, so I'm still enjoying the game.
That's awesome. Now we're talking to Lorenzo Alexander here on the Sports Spectrum Podcast. I want to ask you about your season, just how you felt. I mean, it was a good season. I thought the Bills made the playoffs for the first time in forever, which was wonderful to probably be a part of.
Everybody knows it's a 17-year drought. Yeah. This was year 18, and we was able to break through.
Yeah.
But it was like any season, a lot of ups and downs, a lot of perseverance. And it was great. One thing I loved about this team that we stayed together, stuck it through, because through the middle of that, we had a hard stretch of 3 games where we lost, couldn't stop anybody on defense, couldn't do anything on offense. But I think Sean did a great job this year of building relationships and really talking about, we talk about the process, but Kaizen, and that's continually to get better throughout the season. And you'll have some dips and lows throughout there, but you always want to be on an upper trajectory, and we were able to do that as a team, for 16 games, and then that's why we were able to find ourselves where we wanted to be in the playoffs this year.
You played in the snowiest game I think I have ever seen, and you're laughing because you were mic'd up by NFL Films.
And that's all you heard
was laughter.
Was like,
I can't believe what is that like?
I'm a California boy. I grew up in Oakland, California, and I've never seen snow like that in my life, and it was ridiculous. I called it video game weather. The only time I've ever seen snow like that was playing Madden, and you put the weather all the way up and make it snowy. But NFL Films was doing like a mic-up segment with me, and they couldn't see me. They followed around the wrong guy majority of the game, and so all we really got was great laughter out of me, great audio, but it was fun.
And you won the game.
We did win. That made it better.
Yeah, of course.
But you out there high-kneeing, slipping and falling, snowing your face mask. I mean, it was fun, especially because we came out to win.
Now, one more football question. The Patriots, obviously, every year it seems like they're here, and you game plan for them the last 2 years and trying to stop them on offense. Walk our listeners through what it's like to try and game plan for this team, and then when you're actually on the field and you're seeing what you see.
What they do is not complicated. They do what they do at a very high level and do it well and very consistent. They don't make any mistakes.
Right.
And if they do it maybe early in the game and they're able to bounce back from it, They make great adjustments throughout the game. Obviously, Tom Brady and Belichick are the best duel probably ever that the NFL will ever see. But when you're out on the field, I mean, they just have a calm and poise about them that, even if they're down by 21 or down by 14 like we saw when they was playing Jacksonville or down by whatever that was, 13 points.
Yes, it came right back.
They come right back because they know they've been there. They understand that let's just be calm, stick to our game plan. This worked. This is going to be here. We've overcome this before, and they do it. And people are surprised, but I'm not because I've seen it over and over and over again. So why be surprised about something that they continue to do?
They're amazing to watch. Let me ask you about your faith. Obviously, I know you're a strong believer.
Right.
You trust in Christ, and that's a big part of your life. Walk us through what it's like to be a strong follower in Jesus and still be a football player throughout the season, staying grounded, that type of thing.
I think it's all in this one thing. I'm not a football player or whatever your job is. I'm a Christian is my foundation, and then whatever I go decide to do, that's part of my platform or my job or my work, and that just comes out and bleeds out. Whether I'm a host, NFL host, a football player, a father at home, it just kind of comes out, and I just try to consistently, stay in the Word. We have a great team chaplain, Lynn Vanderboss, that does a great job of having team chapels. We have one on obviously the game day, and then we also meet during the week as a group. We have couple study, so we're constantly trying to feed ourselves the Word so it becomes part of us and who we are, because we're obviously, like you said, we're more than football players. Being Christ-centered, makes everything better.
Now talk about let me ask you this. So for Football Sunday we're doing this year, over 2,000 churches are going to be showing this video, which has football players sharing their testimony of faith. And this will be my last question. Let me ask you about seek, serve, and surrender. That's the theme that we're looking at for Football Sunday this year. What does it mean when you hear seek, serve, and surrender as a follower?
Obviously all mean a little bit different things, but this kind of seeking out God. I haven't always been a believer. I gave my life over to Christ right when Sean Taylor passed, so 2007. It really made me reflect on who I was, and I had some other guys, James Thrash, Antoine Randall L., our team chaplain, Pastor Brett. And before that time, I wasn't seeking God at all. I had an emptiness in my heart. I didn't know how to feel it. But because of those guys, I said, let me start seeking God. So, I came in contact with people that were living out the Christian faith and being evangelical about it and sharing it just by who they were, and then also sharing some scripture and just serving me, essentially. I was getting all of it and didn't know what it meant. But I think once you find Christ and give your life to Him, now it's about seeking Him every single day. Am I surrendering my life over to Him every single day? My will for His will. And it's in anything. 1 year I got released from Arizona Cardinals, played a great game. Everybody on the team was shocked that I got released. End up going to Oakland. Everybody else is like, but I had some experience before. I said, okay, God is doing something in this. What is it? Let me look for it. I wasn't woe was me. I was looking for Him in that instance, and it happened to be a cousin of mine that I grew up with. We were like brothers. He had been in prison for a significant amount of time, and he got out of jail when I got sent to Oakland. So it had nothing to do with football, but I was there to help him re-engage into the community, re-engage into our family, because he was very nervous about that. And that's why I was sent to Oakland, and, for no other reason but to have that relationship for him. And, football was just something that I did while I was there, but really just focused on that relationship and helping him out.
That's awesome. He is Lorenzo Alexander, Buffalo Bills linebacker, here as part of the broadcast bowl at the Super Bowl. It's great talking to you, my friend. Let's catch up again soon.
Yeah, always. Appreciate you.
Really good stuff there from Lorenzo. We'll continue the podcast spree here at Super Bowl 52 in Minneapolis with former NFL quarterback Dan Orlovsky. You remember Dan was a part of the podcast back in October, and we talked to Dan about Super Bowl 52 and what seek, serve, and surrender means in his life. Joined by former NFL quarterback, I say former now because he has officially retired, Dan Orlovsky, who was on our podcast back in October. Welcome, Dan.
Good to be here.
It's good to see you and good to talk to you. Now, this is your first Super Bowl, you said, that you've covered and been at. Why? What happened there?
Brilliant decision. So my rookie year was 2005 when the Super Bowl was actually in Detroit. I was a rookie in Detroit, and I remember saying, I'm never going to go to a Super Bowl until I get the opportunity to play in it. Well, 13 years later, I've never played in it, and now being retired, still never had that opportunity. So I've never been to one. I've never been to anything like Media Week and Radio Row and all that. So that's been a fun experience for me, and see a lot of friendly faces and whatnot. So it's certainly been new for me.
It's crazy, right? It's chaos when you come to a Super Bowl.
I mean, I had anticipation and expectations of what it would be like. But I feel like walking away, I mean, it's exhausting in a way, because it's nonstop. You got to be on. And then the thing that's crazy is you walk away going, the Super Bowl may be the second biggest week in America outside Christmas week. It's just such a huge deal. It's so much fun, though, because you get to experience it in such a unique and intimate way, but on such a big stage.
And you're now kind of playing the analyst role. You're auditioning, as they say, maybe find a job for next season, and you're putting on your analyst hat. So let's do that with the Patriots and the Eagles, and it's Super Bowl 52, and we all know the Patriots' history. We know the Eagles have never won a Super Bowl. So put on your analyst hat for me and kind of break it down, and who do you like to win?
Yeah, I can go a lot of different ways. I think there's so many cool storylines and variables. The ones that stand out to me are, as you can approach this game, it truly is the Super Bowl, because both teams are the best 1 through 53 teams, and that has shown through. If you looked at New England and Edelman goes down, oh man, New England's done. What do? Next guy up. And a lot of teams can say that, but a lot of teams don't have the guys to do it. Philadelphia loses Peters and Sproles and everybody. They got a Hall of Fame IR. And what happens? Next guy up. And again, a lot of teams can't do that. They don't have the guys to. They're not good enough. And so that's the cool thing for me, is both these teams are the best 1 through 53s, and they're built so similarly. If you take Tom Brady away, which I know is weird, but there's no superstar. There's no, Wheaties box guy. They're all just really good football players, and so the teams have done a great job of building the team together. I think Philadelphia is the one staff in the NFL that can go head-to-head with Belichick and his staff, and they've proven that. I mean, they've proven how they've overcome injuries. They lose their MVP quarterback and somehow are still in the Super Bowl. It's a remarkable job by their coaching staff. I think that New England certainly is going to have a benefit of them being on offense. The McDaniels-Schwartz chess match is going to be incredible. Yeah. But I'm looking forward to watching the Eagles' offense against the Patriot defense, because I think the Eagles' offense has had so much success with their RPOs, the run-pass options, that New England has to do something about it. You can't sit there and go, well, New England's just going to do their job, because RPOs attack just that, people doing their job. Because if you're a linebacker or a safety, you have to see run and go to it, and then that's where the RPOs. You have to see run, react to pass. Right. RPOs happen too fast. So they've got to play some man coverage. That's how you shut down RPOs. That's going to open up some incredible matchup opportunities for the Eagles, with Ajayi and Clement out of the backfield against a linebacker like James Harrison or Kyle Van Noy, and then Ertz and Burton. They're going to be one of those guys is going to have a linebacker on him in man-to-man, and that's not good news for the Patriots. So that's what I want to watch, is, again, seeing how I think I've grown to have such an admiration for the Eagles staff with Peterson and Frank Reich and DiFilippo. I'm really excited to see it. So I think it's going to be a fantastic game. It's a great matchup, and I think if it was Week 7 in regular season, a lot of people would like the Eagles.
I think so too.
But the Super Bowl aura, and it's Brady and Belichick in the Super Bowl, and they never lose, has got people's attention over here. I still like Philadelphia. I think that they are the better roster, and I think, we always talk about when a team wins a championship, everyone says, man, our team was so close. We cared about each other. We loved each other. We all meant something to each other, and that's all you hear at Philadelphia. That's all they talk about with each other. And that's, for a guy who's been in locker rooms that were good at that and were bad at that, that's such an undervalued and underspoke on thing, is how that stuff can make up for, your quote-unquote lack of experience in the Super Bowl.
They are a team that are not ashamed about their faith, too. Many of those guys on the Eagles, obviously, you've been on this podcast. You know what the Sports Spectrum brand is about, the intersection of sports and faith. Tell me about what your thoughts are as a believer in Christ who's played in the NFL a long time, and you've seen sort of the camaraderie and things that can happen. You shared your testimony, what things that happen in the locker room and the guys that influence you. From afar, what's your view on how you've seen the Eagles and the way that they've been so outspoken? The family atmosphere, of course, but so outspoken about their faith, so many of them, especially Carson.
Well, what I love about it is it's very clear that they're all incredibly comfortable in their skin and who they are. And to be honest with you, that's a rarity in the NFL. That's not commonplace in the NFL. Whether guys are believers or not, that's not commonplace. And I think that's so incredible that I'm not going to say it's spearheaded by Carson Wentz, but I think that I find it remarkable that he could be in his second year, relatively young, high-profile job in a high-pressured city, and he goes, you know what? This is who I am, and I'm not running from it at all. And I think that there's that endearing quality for other guys that if you're one of those guys in the background going, I don't really know if I want to say that. Yeah. Well, if you watch that guy who is an absolute savage on the field and as competitive as they come, still be able to stand out there and do that, that makes you go, all right, I feel like I can go do it. And I think it's that domino effect. And guys, it's almost like a microcosm of their season and their team, because I think their head coach stands out. You watch the way they calls the game. He stands out there and goes, this is who we are, and we're going to be aggressive and how we play football, and we're not ashamed and we're not scared of anybody. And I think that's kind of how they, those guys are living out their faith is, this is who I am, and I'm going to be aggressive in my faith, and I'm going to be unashamed because that's who I am. I think it's really, really cool. I was part of a locker room like that in 2008 with the Lions. We didn't have the success on the field that the Eagles have had, but I know the lifelong relationships that are getting built and the impact that all those relationships are going to go have. And it's, for an outsider, it makes you want to be a part of that locker room. Take the football aspect out of it. It makes you want to be a part of that locker room.
Now, Football Sunday is something that Sports Spectrum has helped produce. It's going to be shown in over 2,000 churches this weekend. It's going to be on YouTube, and tons of people are going to watch this video. And it features the Eagles and the Jets and the Patriots and others talking about their faith, talking about Christ, but talking about it from the perspective of seeking, serving, and surrendering to Christ. So I'm going to ask you, when I say seek, surrender, serve, as a believer in Christ, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that hits me is it's a journey. So you've got to learn what it's like to seek God. It's the same thing. Analogy is like when you were 16 and you were seeking that girl, or you're 18 or it's that same thing. You've got to go pursue, and it can't be. You're not going to get into that relationship if you do it half-heartedly or kind of. You've got to be all in. It's an all-in thing for it to be a marriage essentially. So that's part of it, is me going and seeking God and His Word and in prayer and His wisdom and in moments going, hey, God, give me the opportunity to be courageous. Mm-hmm. Give me the opportunity to have integrity. And so that's part of that seeking, is it's that never-ending journey that you're on. It's infinite. It's like numbers. It's an infinite journey of seeking. Surrendering is, for me, it's not standing on the fence. I've got to surrender my money, because if I'm going to surrender, if I'm going to surrender my thoughts, I've got to surrender my money. And if I'm going to surrender my mouth, I've got to surrender my actions. It's a full surrendering. It's not a partial or kind of or in between. It's a full, and that's hard to do, because we as people, our flesh, we want our cake and to eat it too. And so it's an everyday thing. It's an everyday choice, of that surrender. And then the serving thing is such again, it's an everyday application for me. It's, how can I figure out a way to serve my wife at 7 a.m. when we're waking up? Can I make her a coffee? And that's corny to some people, for sure.
No, but that's real life.
Yeah, but that's part of my wife's looking and watching that. Can I wash the dishes? Is it corny? Yeah. Is it annoying? For some reason, probably, but it's a way to serve my wife. Can I serve my children? Can I serve my neighbor? My neighbor's garbage cans are down at the end of the street. Can I pull them up? I'll never forget Dave Wilson, who's the team chaplain in Detroit, told the story about how he would take his sons, and there was a relationship with a neighbor that wasn't fantastic. I don't think the neighbor liked them that much. And he would take his sons over there with rakes and rake their yard. And it was just like, we wanted to just go and serve them.
Bless someone else.
Yeah. And it was a really cool analogy for me to go, well, I've got to figure out ways to do that, and I want to teach my children, how to do that stuff. So for me, it's so much more. It's so much of that everyday journey, that everyday choice, because I do believe there's an aspect of it that is choice, and it's a conscious decision you're making on seeking, surrendering, and serving. And when you're doing those things, it fills you in ways that are inexplicable. You just, and I don't want to put it that simply because it's the easy way out, but it's just there's nothing that meets it. There's nothing that comes close to that pure joy you get from it.
The ultimate fulfillment.
Yeah.
He is Dan Orlovsky, former NFL quarterback. We appreciate you joining us here on Sports Spectrum.
Thanks, man. Thank you, bud.
From one quarterback to another, one former quarterback to another, we do appreciate Dan Orlovsky joining us here on the podcast from Super Bowl 52. And our next interview is with another former NFL quarterback who played many years with a bunch of different teams, including the Raiders and the Buccaneers. Here's Bruce Gradkowski joining us here on the podcast. All right, we're here at Super Bowl 52 in Minneapolis, and I'm talking to Bruce Gradkowski, longtime NFL quarterback, retired now. It's weird to say retired NFL quarterback, right?
Hey, retired, 3 kids, so a lot going on.
Now, you're here as part of the NFL Broadcast Bowl and sort of working with player engagement. Tell us about that and kind of what you're doing.
Yeah, I think the NFL player engagement, they've done a great job help supporting former and current NFL players, you know, to give us a platform to kind of try to take advantage of the things they offer going into the next transition of our life. You know, I've been playing football since I was 8 years old. Yeah. So to come into that next transition, to see what's next, the multiple opportunities they give you as far as like a business school, you know, the broadcast boot camp, both things I took advantage of. And, you know, it's just cool that they're here for us to help us figure out what's next.
I know your faith is important to you. Talk about being a believer and what that means and how God is important to you and the platform that he's given you to sort of be a light for him in what you're doing.
Well, I wouldn't be standing here today if it wasn't for God and the things he blessed me with. I mean, I'm 6'1". I didn't have the strongest arm, and I was fortunate enough to play 11 years in the NFL, and for what God has blessed me with and the opportunities. And that's why even with this next transition in my life, I know he's in control, you know, because he's already done it and proved it to me in my past. So it's just been truly a blessing to just be here. I mean, be here today, be at the Super Bowl, and try not to take it for granted. You know, a lot of people are like, man, you're really going to the Super Bowl? And I'm thinking, yeah, I got to work some stuff, but the opportunities God's blessed me with, and more importantly, my family at home, you know, and that's been a true blessing.
Now tell me about Seek, Serve, and Surrender. So I'll explain that. Football Sunday is something that our team is doing this year. 2,000 churches across the country are going to be showing a 25-minute sort of tool, evangelist tool, for like a replacement sermon for churches. And it's football players talking about faith and their platform. And the sort of model is seek, serve, and surrender. So as a guy whose faith is important to him, when you hear those words, seek, serve, and surrender, what comes to your mind? It could be any of those three or all three.
Well, I think that anything I've been through, you know, you seek God first. You know, you can make many plans, but the Lord's purpose will prevail. Yeah. You know, Proverbs 19:21. And I've been trying to rehearse those things in my mind, because if I'm seeking God, he's going to take care of my path and put me in the right path. And, you know, and serve others. You know, I've been so blessed to be able to get opportunities that I want to be a blessing for someone else. Sure. Because I didn't get to play 11 years in the NFL by myself. There's been people that have sacrificed their time for me, gave me the right opportunity at the right time. So how can I serve someone else and give them an opportunity and surrender? And then just give it to God. You know what I mean? And just at the end of the day, you know, we all have issues we go through and we're struggling with. And at the end of the day, you know, he loves us. Now having kids, I can see that how much I love my daughter and my 2 sons. You know, nothing they could do that would ever make me stop loving them. And sometimes, you know, when we have a fall back, we think, oh man, God's mad at us, or you know, I did something wrong. But man, at the end of the day, God's never going to stop loving us. So that's sometimes what I try to really wrap my head around.
Well, let's end it with this. We're at the Super Bowl, obviously. You played against Tom Brady. I don't know how many times in your career, but the dude's been around for 17 years. Right. So it has to be a few times. Right. So we have the Patriots once again, and we have the Eagles as sort of upstart underdogs. A lot of guys in there, strong followers of Christ as well, which is really cool to see. But what are you thinking on Sunday? I know you're doing some analyst work over in London. So what are you thinking of Sunday and the Eagles and the Patriots? Yeah,
so I'm going to be the color analyst for Great Britain Radio on Sunday.
Fantastic.
So I'm excited for that. And, I mean, what Brady has done and Belichick, it's remarkable. You know, so you have to tip your hats to those guys. They're going to be prepared. There's no doubt. So the Eagles have a tough challenge in front of them. But what Doug Peterson has done, and he got Nick Foles in a little rhythm here the last few weeks. He's going to call plays Foles is comfortable with. And then that defense, though. they can get pressure on Brady with a 4-down defensive line without blitzing him. So watch for Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, Chris Long to get after Brady. If they could put some pressure on Brady early, it could be a good game for the Eagles, but you can just never count out Tom Brady.
You can't pick against New England, can you?
It's so hard, but I'm going to say New England wins by 1 on a last-second field goal because that's what
they do, right?
Tom does what he does.
Right.
You know?
He is Bruce Gradkowski, longtime NFL quarterback. Great to see you here at Super Bowl 52, my friend. Best wishes.
Yeah, thanks, Jason.
All right, buddy. And finishing our round of Super Bowl interviews today here at Super Bowl 52 in Minneapolis, we talked to San Francisco 49ers defensive lineman Leger Douzable. And Leger is a solid follower of Jesus Christ who loves the Lord and has been kind of a journeyman, kind of playing all throughout his career on many different teams. And we talked to Leger at Super Bowl 52 at the Media Center over at Radio Row, and we asked him about seek, serve, and surrender. And we're here at the Super Bowl in Minneapolis. I'm talking to Leger Douzable from the San Francisco 49ers. It's good to see you, my friend.
It's always great to see you, Jay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, you're here working with the Broadcast Bowl as part of player engagement. Tell us about that experience and what that's like.
It's been amazing. As I met you at the Broadcast Boot Camp a few years back,
yes, sir.
They allotted 4 of us to come here to work on our craft, and it's amazing and a blessing to be able to come out here, work with some of the best media guys and, to interact with some NFL players and other media outlets.
Okay, that's awesome. Now, I want to talk about your season.
Okay.
You've been in a lot of different places. Your journey, NFL journey, is a different type of journey than a lot of guys. Definitely. And you end up in San Francisco this year. How did that go for you?
It's actually more common than people think. I think me and Lorenzo almost have similar stories, undrafted guys that have had to fight each and every year to make the team. And this year I ended up in San Fran, as you alluded, and it was a great experience to help. It's my 10th year in the league, to help some of those younger guys move along, show them how to be pros. And then, we finally got a great quarterback in Jimmy Garoppolo, and the guy is just, he just has that it factor.
Yes.
And he's been behind Brady for 3.5 years, and you can tell.
Yeah.
He just comes in and commands the locker room, commands the huddles, and it's always great when you have a franchise guy that can go out there and win games for you.
Absolutely. Now, let me ask you about your faith. I know you're a strong believer in Jesus Christ.
Definitely.
And what that looks like during the season and the platform that God gives you, not only to be a football player, but even more to kind of stay grounded and rooted in the Word.
Definitely. Without God, none of this is possible. And as you say, I put it out there in social media. I think people can see it in my walk and in my talk. And without the Lord, none of this would have been possible. And it started when I was younger. My father is a minister. My mom and, we grew up in the church, going to church every Sunday, Bible studies and everything like most people do when younger. But it's something that I really, took a hold to and tried not to change as I've gotten older. Even when I was in college, I've always turned to the Lord. In the league, I've been blessed to play for 10 years. And like I said, none of that would have been possible without God. So it's just been a blessing to be able to, talk to other players about God and just to see how many players in the NFL really love the Lord and they walk it every day in their Christian lives.
Now, we are doing a thing called Football Sunday this year. Sports Spectrum is 2,000 churches on a Sunday morning on Super Bowl Sunday are going to be watching this 30-minute sort of outreach of football players and their testimonies. A lot of your former teammates with the Jets are a part of it.
Definitely.
So I want to ask you, because seek, serve, and surrender is sort of the motto that we're looking at.
Definitely.
So as a believer, what do those things mean? What comes to your mind when you think about seeking, serving, and surrendering to Christ?
Well, first of all, seeking is just seeking the Lord in everything you do, seeing what is a goal and what purpose He has for you in your life. Yeah. So I think that's the first thing that comes to my mind when you talk about seeking, and that's something I pray about and I've struggled with and trying to figure out what exactly the Lord wants me to do on an everyday basis, and even in my future, what He wants me to do. So you said the next thing was service. It's definitely, I think it's going out, outreaching, bringing more people into the fold of, the brotherhood and Christianhood of Christ. So that's definitely what I think when you think about service is going out, bringing, one or two of your friends along that may not be believers, but, trying to get them into the fold of Christ. And
then surrender.
Just surrendering your life to Christ. Don't make any decisions without Christ. And I try not to make any major decisions, but I need to be better on just make any decision before I make any decision, going to the Lord, praying and asking Him, Lord, what do you want me to do in this situation, or what should I do? So just surrendering your life to Christ is, once I've did that, I've been doing it my whole life, but once I've really done it the last couple of years, my life has taken off and I've been so blessed.
Leger Douzable, San Francisco 49ers here at the Super Bowl. Thanks, man, for taking a few minutes.
Of course. Thanks for having me, Jay.
Absolutely. And we do appreciate Lorenzo Alexander of the Buffalo Bills, former NFL quarterbacks Dan Orlovsky and Bruce Gradkowski, as well as San Francisco 49ers defensive lineman Leger Duazable for joining us here on a special edition of the Sports Spectrum podcast live from Super Bowl 52 here in Minneapolis. As always, you can follow all of our content at sportspectrum.com, where we're live here from the Super Bowl with plenty of content, including interviews with Eagles and Patriot players about their faith walk. So check that out over at sportspectrum.com, as well as our YouTube channel. Just search Sports Spectrum over on YouTube, and all of our content is there as well. And as always, you can follow us on Twitter at sports_spectrum, and you can reach us, Jason, at sportspectrum.com. And of course, subscribe, sportspectrum.com, $36 a year, become a member and partner with us, sportspectrum.com. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you soon. Enjoy the Super Bowl, everyone.